From the start, it seemed, the diplomatic bar for this round of Syria talks could not have been set any lower.
I'm not expecting an immediate breakthrough from this round of negotiation, but the beginning of a series of rounds that should enable to go much more in depth on the substantive issues that are required for a political solution in Syria.
But momentum was hard to achieve in Geneva. Every time it seemed one hurdle had been cleared, another obstacle would appear. That a much-hyped meeting between the main Syrian opposition delegation and Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Gennady Gatilov finally took place on Wednesday was significant. It's an indication that Russia, which backs Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, may be willing to apply pressure on al-Assad's government to consider discussing the idea of political transition. By the next morning, though, the message from Moscow was quite different, with the Russian Foreign Ministry publicly accusing the opposition's High Negotiations Committee, or HNC, of trying to sabotage the talks. On Friday, marathon talks were held in a final attempt to salvage the process. While the Syrian government delegation met with UN Special Envoy for Syria, Staffan de Mistura, members chose not to speak to the media afterward. Later, the opposition was optimistic, saying this round of negotiations had produced more positive results than previous diplomatic efforts, including discussion of the contentious topic of political transition. By nightfall, de Mistura said he'd like to see Syria's government and opposition pursue a framework agreement in accordance with UN Security Council Resolution 2254.
While it remains our goal to secure an agreement to move to direct negotiations between the government and the opposition, but at the moment we have noticed, and that was the case in Astana too, that there is a moment when in fact it's more effective to have proxy committee discussions like we have had this time. There are moments where the mediation and the mediator finds it, in fact, more useful for both sides or all sides to actually have proximity talks rather than having direct ones. But we will pursue that when we will feel that the moment is right.
De Mistura added that the UN Security Council had set out clear timetables, that a new constitution for Syria should be drafted within 12 months, and that free and fair elections should be held within another 18 months. While those deadlines will no doubt be difficult to meet, Mr. de Mistura seemed confident he could keep this very complicated process on track. So much so that he's planning on inviting the Syrian government and opposition back to Geneva for another round of talks later this month. Mohammed Jamjoom, Al Jazeera, Geneva.